Hi, my name is Sherwin Lai. I'm the Interp captain at Bellarmine in Speech and Debate for the 2019 to 20 school year. Today's video is going to be about some tips, do's and don'ts, about tournaments and competing, whether it's before tournament when we're preparing, gearing up for it, or even some things to focus on during the tournament. So let's just get into it. So first, let's talk about the do's and don'ts before a speech tournament. Do practice every day. Now, there's this mistake some people make that they think they can do well at a tournament just by practicing maybe 1, 2, or 3 days before the tournament and really start gearing up then. You should be practicing every day at least 1.5 weeks before a tournament, ideally 2 or 3. And I'd say starting a month before the tournament, you should be practicing multiple times a week. Now, this doesn't mean you have to give your entire speech every day, but you should at least be doing some sections and keeping it familiar. Trust me, when you try to pull this together last minute, it never works out. So really try to keep that practice schedule consistent. Record and time yourself. These are very important. A lot of times we just do our piece. We don't really know what the real problems are until we see it for ourselves. So use a mirror. Recording yourself, I think, is one of the best ways because you can really analyze and scrutinize your own performance. And don't forget to time yourself, because if you're over time or under time, we need to figure that out earlier than later. It's always difficult to have to make last minute cuts a few days before the tournament because you realize that you're over time and then you have to mess up your memorization with the cuts, whatever, right? Let's try to figure out what your time is beforehand and try to time consistently because it might change throughout the weeks or throughout the season. Have someone watch your performance. Obviously, you can refer to the coaching video about this. Your peers are an excellent resource. Schedule coaching meetings. Have your parents watch your performance. They usually give pretty good feedback. This is very important. You've got to warm up and be 100% ready for round 1. Many people make the mistake that round 1 is for you to get warmed up, usually just like figure things out during round 1, so round 2 is better. No, round 1 counts just as much as any of the other rounds, and if we're just throwing it away and giving other competitors advantage, that's waste. Let's take advantage of the fact that many of your competitors might be tired or unprepared during round 1, so we can crush them and get an early head start on your score, and it will really help you down the line. So make sure you're warmed up, and you're not. Round 1 should not be the first time you're giving your speech each day or on the day of the tournament. Account for mental preparation. This is super important. A lot of times we might be technically prepared. We've put in a lot of work and whatever, but when the pressure's on, we put ourselves in a different situation, right? So I'd argue that mental preparation is almost as important, if not more important, than all the other preparation you've done. Because right now, when you're coming into a tournament, you should be focusing on executing that preparation. And you need to be mentally ready for that. And yeah, sometimes competition will be very challenging, but how will you motivate yourself to keep pushing, right? So that mental preparation and that confidence, I think, can cause you to win or lose. A few don'ts. Try to avoid spicy, fried, or sweet foods and drinks at least like 1 week, 1.5 weeks before the tournament. Last thing you want is like a throat problem or to be sick or have your throat be like super dry or itchy. That's the last thing you want during a speech tournament, right? Do not write your intro the day before the morning of. This is surprisingly a problem, right? People procrastinate on figuring out their intros. Do this many weeks in advance. I found that when you try to procrastinate on your intro, your memorization is shaky and disjunct from the rest of your practice and your piece, and it's actually more obvious than you think. So please take care of that earlier. Obviously, don't try to memorize or cut lines for time before round, because it's over time. Obviously, you should have timed this a long time ago. Obviously, you should have memorized this a long time ago and been practicing. That should be fairly obvious. The only reason I'm putting it out here because I've seen people do this and it's very ineffective. Don't make last-minute coaching requests. Refer to the coaching video I talked about. Make sure you're staggering out your coaching sessions and you're not just trying to cram in a bunch at the end before the tournament. It makes it difficult on your coaches, on yourself, and you don't really have enough time to practice what you've gone over during the coaching session. So it's just not effective. Finally, don't go to sleep late. This is really important. You think you might be able to operate on like 3 or 4 hours of sleep, but it's really going to affect your performance. And those extra few hours of sleep are going to be more important than that last minute fix you make to your speech. Because if you don't have the energy going into the round, it's going to screw you over. Now, a few tips about how to conduct yourselves and compete. A few tips to keep in mind during the tournament. Warm up before round 1 the morning of. Don't waste your time dilly-dally and chat with people after you check in. So check in at the tournament with your captain or coach, right? Go find a wall to talk to. Go find a tree to engage with, right? And it's up to you if you want to give it your whole speech. I usually find that helps. Unless you think it's going to take up too much energy. This is a personal choice. But do make sure you're going through most sections, going through most of your speech. Round 1, again, should not be the first time you give your speech. And we don't want to waste that opportunity to get ahead early in the game. Focus on your own performance, not your competitors. It doesn't matter if, the state finalist from last year is in your round, right? At the end of the day, it's not like debate where you're engaging with your opponents directly. You should just believe in the preparation you've put into the performance, and you never know. Like, judges are arbitrary. You could easily beat them. Maybe you're overestimating their ability and underestimating your own. Right? This ties back into the mental preparation I've talked about. Never be intimidated by someone else because you can always crush them. If you have nervous energy, turn it into positive or motivational energy. Everyone does this differently. Find something that works for you. Between your rounds, make sure you debrief with your teammates. Talk about what went well, what might have not gone so well, what you want to focus on or emphasize the next round to do better. Your captain or coach might organize a more formal group circle debriefing. That's up to them. But at least informally talk about it. But do conserve energy. Don't spend a lot of time playing video games or chatting or whatever, because you always want to have that energy and focus for the next round. Do not play the game and psych yourself out. The game, I mean, like guessing what ranks you got, whether you're going to break, what you need. Most of the time I've found when I've tried to do this, I'm most likely wrong. Besides, most of these judges are so unpredictable. You can never really figure it out. And of course, also depends on the people in your room, right? So don't try to play the game, psych yourself out, or think that you can't break because you didn't think a round went well. Oftentimes, when I think I do well, I get terrible scores. Or when I think I didn't do well, I got great scores, right? You don't know. So don't psych yourself out. Your mentality should always be that the next round is going to determine whether or not you can break. And you need to put full energy and effort into it. Last thing you want is to mentally destroy yourself, because that happens. Yeah, that's what I said. Treat each round as if it's going to determine if you break. Focus and push, right? Resist the urge to get tired near the end of the day, especially after lunch. We get tired after eating, or it's been a long day. And you're like, oh, screw it. It's just this round. I don't care anymore. A lot of times, that third round will literally determine if you can break. So, or that final round will determine your final placement, whether you can get a wild card or qualify, right? So really keep that energy level consistent. And finally, very important, be supportive of your teammates. This should be very obvious, right? Competitions can be very stressful. You know, I know you've got guys will get each other back. I know you guys have gotten each other's backs. I can't talk today. Anyway, yeah, we need to do a better job of being supportive, being here for each other unconditionally, and that's going to carry us much farther if we really believe in those principles. So anyway, those are just my tips for how to prepare for a tournament, how to not prepare for a tournament, and things to think about during a tournament. I think the bottom line to all of this is just don't psych yourself out, believe in yourself, account for mental preparation. I think a lot of these things fall under these overarching guiding principles. If you have any questions, let me know, let your captains know, or let your coaches know. That's all I have for this video. Thank you for watching.